Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most absolutely fascinating, essential, and yet kind of destructive elements on our entire planet. I'm talking about phosphorus. It's basically the ultimate double-edged sword for life on Earth. As we get into this, we're going to uncover this incredible story of a biological necessity that, well, when it's pushed just a tiny bit out of balance, creates a total environmental catastrophe. It's a story of life, death, and the really delicate chemistry that governs our world.
So, have you ever thought about what connects the structural integrity of your own skeleton to those massive toxic green algae mats you sometimes see choking up rivers and lakes? Well, the answer is phosphorus. Think about this for a second. Roughly 85% of the phosphorus inside you right now is hard at work, literally holding your bones and teeth together. It's a fundamental building block of life. I mean, it's required for everything from synthesizing ATP, which is basically the battery power of your cells, to your very DNA. Okay, let's dive into this, because here's the paradox. When this incredible, life-giving nutrient escapes into the wrong environment, it acts exactly like a spark in a powder keg.
You see, phosphorus is truly the ultimate Goldilocks nutrient. It demands absolute balance. If an environment has a deficiency, the results are, well, they're incredibly bleak. Crops fail to grow to their full potential. They take way longer to mature, and agricultural yields just absolutely plummet. Without it, plants literally cannot photosynthesize. They basically starve. But let's look at the other side of the scale. An excess of phosphorus is actually one of the main direct drivers of biodiversity loss on our planet right now. It triggers this toxic cocktail of pollutants, massive algal blooms, and even complete ecosystem collapse. So too little means starvation, but too much, that means suffocation.
Now, there is a specific, really fascinating term for this imbalance: eutrophication. It literally translates from Greek roots, meaning well-nourished or excess growth. And, that sounds like a good thing, right? But trust me, it's not. See, in natural freshwater ecosystems, phosphate concentrations are usually incredibly low. Because it's so severely limited in the wild, the local plants and animals have adapted to survive on very, very little. So even a tiny influx of anthropogenic or human-made phosphorus sparks these massive destructive biological reactions. It is truly like throwing high-octane gasoline onto a smoldering fire. The system just simply cannot handle that sudden rush of fuel. Let's walk through exactly how this tragedy actually unfolds in our waters. It's a devastating positive feedback loop that just cascades completely out of control. First, excess nutrients enter the water. This immediately causes a rapid acceleration of algal growth right on the surface. Suddenly, you've got this thick, impenetrable green mat blocking out all the sunlight. And without that light, the delicate underwater plants below can no longer photosynthesize, and they die. But actually, here's where it gets so much worse. The algae themselves eventually die and fall to the bottom. Then bacteria step in to break down this massive graveyard of organic matter. Now, because decomposition is an aerobic process, those bacteria consume huge amounts of the water's dissolved oxygen. Without oxygen, the fish and other aquatic species literally just slowly suffocate. Their dead bodies then feed more bacteria, which uses up even more oxygen. And just like that, a vibrant ecosystem rapidly spirals into a silent, suffocating dead zone. To really picture the stark reality of this, just think about the difference between these two extremes. On one hand, we have a healthy, oligotrophic ecosystem. These are those vibrant, crystal-clear lakes and mountain streams that we all love to swim in. They naturally maintain low nutrient levels and low biological productivity, which is exactly what keeps the water perfectly pristine and oxygen-rich. Now contrast that with the eutrophic reality: murky, green, suffocating waters that are just overloaded with nutrients. They are entirely plagued by excessive algal biomass and completely depleted of the oxygen that complex life actually requires to survive. It's a seriously dramatic transformation. Now, to truly understand how we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that phosphorus is the main culprit here, we have to look at a landmark historical experiment. And honestly, it's a wild one. Back in 1969, a limnologist named David W. Schindler essentially claimed a whole body of water, Lake 227 in Canada, just to test a popular hypothesis. At the time, scientists were fiercely debating whether carbon or phosphorus was the true limiting factor for algae growth. So Schindler did the unthinkable. He intentionally fertilized this pristine lake every single week with a 12-to-1 ratio of nitrogen to phosphorus. The results? Undeniable and immediate. The massive algal blooms that followed proved definitively that phosphorus was the primary trigger for these catastrophic ecosystem shifts. I mean, that is science at a massive scale.
So the crucial point is this: because phytoplankton and algae are essentially starving for phosphorus at all times in a healthy ecosystem, they're primed to explode the second it arrives.
The moment we introduce it, whether that's through agricultural runoff from our farms, municipal sewage, or industrial waste, the algae just consume it greedily. Their populations multiply at an astonishing rate. Phosphorus is the absolute limiting factor here. It's the biological bottleneck. If you control the phosphorus, you control the algae. But if you let the phosphorus slip away, the algae take over completely.
And that brings us to a modern microcosm of this exact paradox: aquaculture, specifically open-flow freshwater fish farming. Now, as global populations continue to rise exponentially and wild fish stocks become dangerously overexploited, aquaculture is absolutely vital for global food security. I mean, we rely on it. But open-flow farms, which are often built directly adjacent to natural rivers and release their water quickly downstream, are really highly susceptible to dumping excess nutrients right back into the environment. We absolutely need the fish to feed the world, for sure, but we desperately need to stop the phosphorus from choking out the rivers. It's a super delicate, high-stakes balancing act.
So where exactly is this phosphorus coming from in a typical fish farm? Well, farmed fish absolutely require phosphorus in their diets for healthy bone formation and energy metabolism. In fact, without it, they develop severe skeletal deformities and a host of pathological issues. But the real pollution occurs when that dietary phosphorus isn't fully utilized by the fish. It ends up escaping into the water in a few different ways. It can be water-soluble phosphorus dissolving directly. It comes from uneaten phosphorus-rich fish feed that just sinks uselessly to the bottom. It comes from the feces of the farmed fish and from other metabolic wastes. Because these open-flow farms are constantly flushing fresh water in and pushing used water out into neighboring rivers, this unabsorbed, wasted phosphorus acts as a really potent point source of pollution downstream.
And the biology here brilliantly illustrates the core issue. If we zoom all the way into the microscopic root of the problem, right into the intestinal tract of a farmed fish, we can see exactly what goes wrong. If a fish has poor gut health or systemic inflammation, the tiny finger-like projections called microvilli in their intestines become severely compromised. This reduces the crucial surface area available for nutrient absorption. Furthermore, active biological transporters, like the sodium-dependent phosphate transporter known as NAPI2B, might just fail to function properly under these stressed conditions. When the intestines simply cannot absorb the dietary phosphorus from the feed, well, the fish has no choice but to excrete it out as waste, sending it directly into those vulnerable water systems.
Fortunately, science offers some absolutely incredible biological solutions to this. It's amazing to think that fixing a fish's stomach can actually save a river miles away. By adding probiotics, like specific beneficial bacillus strains, directly to the fish feed or even into the farm's water, we can fundamentally repair and enhance the fish's gut microbiome. These probiotics enhance the functionality of the intestinal epithelium. They actively boost the expression of those crucial NAPI2B transporters we were just talking about, and they ruthlessly outcompete harmful pathogenic bacteria. The result? It's pure biological elegance. The fish naturally absorbs significantly more of the phosphorus for its own healthy growth, which means drastically less phosphorus is excreted into the river as waste. It's a massive win-win for both agricultural yield and environmental protection. But beyond microscopic gut health, we also have some really incredible macroscopic engineering solutions. We can literally filter the water before it ever has a chance to cause a downstream dead zone. First, consider phytoremediation. We can strategically place floating aquatic plants like water hyacinth and duckweed right in the farm's outflow paths to naturally absorb the excess nutrients before they escape. Pretty cool, right? Second, we have advanced adsorbents and filters. This involves using activated, modified clays, zeolites, or even innovative biomaterials derived from lodgepole pine. These materials literally bind to the phosphorus particles at a chemical level, pulling them right out of the water column. And third, feed optimization. By applying heat treatments or adding exogenous enzymes like phytase to the fish feed, we break down anti-nutritional factors in plant-based diets. This makes it so much easier for the fish to digest the phosphorus in the very first place. Which leaves us with this final vital question. How will we balance the nutritional demands of a growing planet while keeping our life-giving waters breathing? As we've uncovered today, phosphorus is an inescapable requirement for life. It's a foundational building block of our bodies and our food supply, but it's also a potent agent of ecological suffocation if it's left unchecked. However, by utilizing smart engineering, probiotic biology, and a deep, respectful understanding of our aquatic ecosystems, we can absolutely walk this tightrope. We can feed the world without creating dead zones. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I genuinely hope this helps you see the water and the invisible nutrients within it in a whole new light. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.